Yes, one has to simply know that the word God in Hebrew, Elohim, theos in Greek, can be used firstly and often used of the one God, the Father. It can sometimes be used in a secondary sense. Thus, Moses is said to be as God when he was speaking to Pharaoh. He said actually to be God with a little g. I wouldn't say a God necessarily, perhaps isn't the best translation, but to be God without the capital G, God in a secondary sense. And that would be very much true of Hebrews 1, verse 8, which is addressed to the Messiah. And God says to the Messiah, your Messiah's throne, O God, not O a God, don't need that, just O God. Therefore, God, now please note what the writer quickly does, lest anybody should think that Jesus is God with a capital G. Immediately the writer defends himself against that error by saying that God, who is the one true God, who is your God. Okay, I get it. The God with a little g, let's say, has a God. Therefore, they're not being used in the same equal sense. There it is. Every time you see the God, then you're talking about the Father 1,300 times in the New Testament. Very occasionally, as in Hebrews 1:8, and also then in Psalm 8, you'll find this very unusual exception. That is, that Jesus, the Messiah, is called God. I would say that the NAB, the Roman Catholic translation, has that exactly right. So, on a very small scale, Jesus can be called God. Immediately, you're told that that God with a little g has the true God in charge of him, ahead of him. In John 20:28, I think the point there is simply this, that in John 14, Jesus said to Thomas, Thomas, I've been with you all this time. Don't you realize that if you've seen me, you've seen God? Doesn't mean that he was claiming to be God, which would contradict the whole of the rest of the Bible. But finally, in John 20:28, Thomas came to the right understanding that in seeing the Father, you're seeing God in the sense that Jesus and the Father are working together, the agency principle. Don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? So God was in Christ is perfectly true. That God was Christ destroys the first commandment, which is that God is one individual divine person. My Lord there in John 20:28, that can be my Lord Messiah. I get it. I now see my Lord Messiah. And I also see what I didn't see before is that seeing Jesus, I'm seeing the Father at work in him. So both those things would be true.
To go back to the Hebrews 1, the translations sometimes do not help because, as
Okay.
you see there, they
Hmm.
translate capital G God in verse 8, oh God. When we try and explain to people that this is supposed to be God as a title
Yes.
for a human,
Yes.
because this goes back to Psalm 45, as you
Yes.
said,
Yes.
which is a messianic figure. It's not Yahweh God.
No.
So, unfortunately, all the translations bar the NAB, but the NAB also changed it back to capital G. As you
Really?
see there, New American Bible used to at one time have a lowercase g,
That's good information.
but then they changed it.
Yes.
And I wrote to the
Oh,
editors
good.
of the NAB,
Good for you.
and they try to explain why. But unfortunately, so I don't think today
Yeah.
you'll be hard pressed to find a modern day translation actually renders it properly because
Yes.
we're left, as you said, with two
Hmm.
capital G gods, which sounds awfully like polytheism to me.
It does. It's two gods, and that's one too many. So I'm glad that the we can refer at least to the American Bible before that, where they did have God with a small letter G on the front of it. But as you say, they unfortunately went back to a bad habit.